A beginning glass vase starts a lot like everything else, with a gather on the end of a blowpipe. After this gather, we're going to go sit down. Alright, the first gather is always your initial gather. It's never going to be, gigantic. So we have to let that cool off, and we're going to gather again. The more times you gather, the more material you get, the bigger your piece will end up being. So while we wait for this to cool off, we're going to shape it a little bit with the block. The blocking just sets it up with the skin, allows the glass to cool off a little bit faster, and we can go for our second gather. Off to get the second gather. It's going to be a lot more material, and when you go for the second gather, sometimes the pipe gets a little bit hot where your hands are. So after this gather, we'll go and cool the pipe off. It's real important when you cool off the pipe, go cold to hot, because if you don't do that, you'll actually end up bending the pipe. Alright, so it goes to the cold side to the hot side. Alright, keep it turning. You have a second gather on there. Trying to keep that on the end of the pipe is pretty important. After we cool off our pipe, we're going to head over to the bench. Alright, the way you get in and out of the bench is set it down, open the door, give you access inside your bench, and then go for your block. So when you're blocking, it's real important to have your left hand remain even turns and keep it fluid. So when you're blocking with your right hand, you want to apply slight upward pressure. Alright, you can change the angle of your block, but it's always going to be kind of an upward pressure. It's never going to be smash it back on the pipe or smash it off the pipe. Just nice and even pressure. When you start to see smoke in that block, you can go ahead and quench it in the water and then continue the blocking process. If you block for too long, it's just going to burn out the block. Due to the magic of editing, you're not seeing the second heat I take on this piece, and I block it a whole second time, and that gives that fresh gather a chance to penetrate the core, that cold first gather which you use to gather the second. It's extremely important to have your heats homogenized so you can have a really even bubble. Now I'm going for the bubble, blowing into the pipe. I'm pressurizing the pipe before the air has a chance to come out. I cap it with my thumb. It's going to go to the path of least resistance. It can't go through my thumb. It's going to go through the molten glass. So another heat, we're going to start marvering. This is the marvering table. It's basically a heat sink. All the glass blowing is just telling that bubble what to do. Alright, so we're going to marver the bottom. Believe it or not, the piece that is touching the marver right now is actually the bottom of our vase. Okay, so we're cooling that bottom off and expanding. Again, the bubble is going to travel the path of least resistance. So that means the bubble is going to blow out pretty much everywhere else before it blows out that bottom. After it's too cold to be affected by marvering, we're going to get it hot, do it again. Alright, so we're marvering the same kind of angle. We're going to try to marver that bottom. Alright, the bottom of the vase. We're supporting the weight, and the glass is actually stretching off the pipe, starting to look like a vase already. And we're going to expand a little bit more, blowing it out. Our next step is to go for the jack line. Alright, the jack line, we're going to stretch and jack line simultaneously whenever we make a vase, because if we put a jack line in and then try to stretch, it's not going to work. If we try to stretch and then jack line, it's too elongated to actually get the top portion hot enough for a jack line. When you use the jacks, apply even pressure, alright, until you start to see that line to form, and then you can start to squeeze a little bit harder. After you have your jack line pretty much established, you can go and change the angle of your jacks so it gives it more of an hourglass shape, and then you can go level. The hourglass shape is a weak spot, alright, so it's going to break off a lot easier. On this heat, we're not going to heat the whole thing, we're just going to heat the bottom portion, alright, and then we'll use the papers to shape and cool the glass. The papers are actually the closest we can get to touching the molten glass, without getting hurt. It's an extremely useful tool. Right now we're cooling off the neck, and then we're going to blow a little bit, and we're going to jump over the shoulder to the bottom. The shoulder is the widest part of your piece. Alright, it's our vase. So we're papering the bottom and then blowing some more, and that's going to blow your shoulder out, even further. Again, rinse, repeat. We got it hot. We're going to paper the neck, and then I'm going to jump over the shoulder, make contact with the bottom. The papers are cooling off the bottom, telling the bubble not to blow out too much. The next step is to flatten the bottom with a wooden paddle to allow it to stand. Right now we're in a holding pattern. We're going to wait for the punny. Alright, your assistant's going to get a small bit of glass that we're going to attach on the bottom. It's a temporary connection. But in the meantime, if we hang out on the bench until the punny's done, it's going to get too cold, it's going to crack, so we have to do something called a flash. So when we flash the piece, we take it from the bench to the reheating chamber, back to the bench. And it's pretty much a holding pattern. While we wait for the punny, there we go, we're going to connect the punny towards the center. Alright, this is why I sculpt, it's a little off center. Apply some water to the jack line, and then tap. It should come off and it should stick to the punny. When you're done with a blowpipe, it's real important to cap the top before you quench it in water. Keep it capped the whole time, in, out, put in the bucket. Capping it prevents the water from going up the pipe and actually steaming it, and you're going to hurt somebody if you don't cap the pipe. So always remember to cap the blowpipe. Currently we're heating up the top half of the vase so we can use the jacks to open that small opening into a larger one that we can throw flowers in. I use the back of the jacks a little bit to flatten the lip. One blade first, make it big enough so we can get 2 blades in there and change the angle of the opening. So flaring up with our jacks, we'll flare the lip out to our vase. After you reach the desired angle of the flare you have, or otherwise dictated by the teaching staff, you're ready to knock the vase off. After a quick flash, you are ready to apply water to the punny, walk it over to the annealer, and just give it a tap. It should come off. Thanks for watching. Leave a comment, subscribe. Let me know what you guys want to see. What kind of videos? More blown, more sculpting? Just let me know. And thanks for watching.